Have you ever noticed how much energy you spend trying to soften a simple truth? You need rest. You cannot attend the gathering. You do not have the capacity to take on another task. The boundary itself is small, it is simple, but the moment you prepare to speak it, a heavy, familiar anxiety rises in your chest. And so, the over-explaining begins. You draft a long message. You offer 3 different excuses. You apologize for your own limits. You build a wall of words to protect yourself from their potential disappointment. You bend, twist, and justify your own need for space, hoping that if you just explain it perfectly, they will not be angry. They will not feel abandoned. They will still approve of you. Think about that. Think about the sheer emotional exhaustion of carrying the weight of everyone else's reactions. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that much of our suffering comes from attachment. Often, we think of attachment as clinging to physical things, to wealth, or to people. But one of the deepest forms of attachment is clinging to an image. The image of the good friend, the helpful co-worker, the person who never lets anyone down. When we over-explain our boundaries, we are not just communicating, we are tightly clinging to the desire to control how someone else perceives us. We are terrified of being the villain in their story. Imagine a tired traveler who finally finds a quiet room to rest. They walk inside and gently close the door, but instead of lying down to find peace, they stand anxiously at the threshold. They press their face to the wood, whispering endless apologies through the cracks, desperate to ensure that the people walking by in the hallway are not offended by the closed door. The door is closed, but the traveler is not resting. This is what you do to your own mind when you over-explain your limits. You set a boundary in the physical world, but mentally, you are still standing at the door, desperately negotiating for your right to exist in peace. You drain your own spirit to keep the waters around you perfectly still. Whether it is a delayed text message to a demanding relative, a polite refusal to a colleague, or simply telling someone you cannot be their emotional anchor today, the pattern is the same. The boundary is not the problem. The suffering is in the desperate, grasping need to make the other person comfortable with your boundary. But here is the truth. Your limits do not need a defense attorney. You do not have to put your exhaustion on trial to prove it is valid. Ask yourself, what are you really apologizing for? Are you apologizing for doing something wrong, or are you apologizing simply for having limits? Are you trying to communicate, or are you trying to manipulate the outcome to avoid feeling the sharp sting of someone else's displeasure? Pause. Breathe. Observe this habit the next time it rises. Notice the tight feeling in your chest when you say no. Watch how your mind immediately rushes to gather evidence, excuses, and justifications. Just watch it. You do not have to follow that fearful voice. Let the feeling rise without making it your master. A boundary offered with a mountain of excuses is not a boundary. It is an apology for your own needs. Peace is not found by perfectly managing the feelings of everyone around you. It is found by stepping away from the closed door and finally allowing yourself to rest inside the quiet room. But letting go of this need to explain is only the first step. Because beneath every frantic apology, beneath every wall of words, there is a much deeper wound. A fear that if they do not understand your reasons, they will not understand you. And this is where the next truth begins. What if the hardest part of saying no is not the word itself, but the unbearable silence that follows it? Here is the truth few people want to face. When you over-explain your limits, you are not just trying to soften the blow for them. You are trying to protect yourself. You pour out a river of words because you carry a deep, quiet terror of being misunderstood. If someone walks away from the conversation feeling angry, cold, or disappointed, your mind immediately translates their emotion into your failure. You think, if they are upset, it means you did something wrong. In Buddhist thought, much of our pain comes from clinging to a rigid sense of self. We build an identity, a story of who we are. The caring friend, the reliable worker, the peacekeeper of the family. The ego clings desperately to this image, constructing a fragile house out of the opinions of others. When someone is displeased with us, the ego feels like that house is collapsing. We over-explain because the ego is fighting for its life, trying to rebuild the walls of approval before they fall. Imagine a reflection of the moon on the surface of a quiet lake. When the water is completely still, the reflection is perfectly round and clear. But if the wind blows or a stone is thrown, ripples distort the image. The moon in the water breaks, bends, and scatters. When you over-explain, you are like a person standing waist-deep in the lake, desperately trying to smooth out the ripples with your bare hands. You are trying to force the reflection to look perfect again, but the harder you thrash your hands, the more chaotic the water becomes. You cannot smooth the water by fighting it. You see this in your own life every day. You send a polite message, declining an invitation. They reply with a short, cold, "Fine." Instantly, your mind begins to thrash in the water. Are they mad? Did I sound too harsh? Maybe I should send another message to clarify. You exhaust yourself trying to control an image of yourself that only exists in their mind. You become a prisoner to their perception. Think about your own life. What are you afraid will happen if you simply let someone be wrong about you? Ask yourself, whose voice are you really trying to silence when you explain yourself for the third time? Is it their judgment or your own harsh inner critic demanding perfection? Pause, breathe. The next time you feel the urge to clarify a simple boundary, stop. Let the water ripple. Let the reflection distort. You do not have to fix it. Allow yourself to be misunderstood for a moment. Stand perfectly still and notice that you survive. Notice that the sky above the lake has not fallen, because peace is not found by constantly correcting how others see you. It is found by resting in the quiet truth of who you are, even when their eyes cannot see it. But releasing the need to be perfectly understood reveals a much harder truth about the power we think we hold over the people we love. And this is where the next truth begins. 3. The illusion of managing their feelings. What if the harder you try to keep everyone happy, the further peace moves away? We tell ourselves we are being kind when we offer a mountain of excuses. We think, if I just say this the right way, they will not feel rejected. We believe our long explanations are an act of deep empathy, but if we are brutally honest with ourselves, this is often a desperate act of control. We are trying to micromanage the emotional reaction of another human being. We want to draw a firm line, but we refuse to let them feel the natural friction of that line. You decline an invitation, and immediately you try to script how they will respond. You want them to smile, nod, and tell you that it is perfectly fine. You are trying to be the shock absorber for the world's disappointment. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that suffering arises when we try to control what is fundamentally outside of our grasp. We can guide our own intentions. We can choose our own words. But the internal landscape of another person, their reactions, their sadness, their frustration, belongs entirely to them. When we try to carry their feelings, we are stepping outside of our own life and trying to manipulate theirs. We attach ourselves to the impossible belief that if we are truly good, no one will ever feel let down by us. Imagine a person standing in an open field, frantically trying to catch the rain before it hits the ground. They run back and forth, holding out their hands, exhausting themselves in a desperate attempt to keep the soil dry. But the rain falls anyway. It is the nature of the clouds to release rain, and it is the nature of the earth to get wet. Your boundary is simply the truth of your capacity. Their disappointment is the rain. You cannot catch it all. If you try, you will only end up exhausted, empty, and soaked to the bone, while the ground still gets wet anyway. You see this play out in your daily life. You hear the heavy sigh of a family member on the phone when you say you cannot visit. You see the subtle shift in a co-worker's face when you decline to take on their project. You tell a partner you just need a quiet evening alone, and you sense their mood drop. Instantly, the guilt flares up. You rush in with a dozen new reasons. You offer compromises you do not actually want to make. You try to catch their rein. You forget that they are capable of weathering their own emotional storms. Think about your own life. How much of your daily energy is spent trying to perfectly script the emotions of other people? What are you so afraid will happen if you simply let someone feel disappointed? Ask yourself, is this frantic over-explaining bringing you peace? Or is it only feeding your fear? Pause, breathe. The next time you state a boundary and you feel the other person's disappointment rising, just let it be. Do your part, speak your truth, then release the outcome. Do not rush in to fix it. Let them feel whatever they need to feel. Because peace is not found by ensuring no one is ever upset with you. It is found by letting go of the illusion that you could ever control their feelings in the first place. But when we can no longer control how they feel, we often feel terribly exposed. We reach for something else to hide behind. And this is where the next truth begins. 4. Words as a shield. Have you ever noticed how silence often feels far more dangerous than speaking? Most people do not realize that over-explaining is rarely about clarity. It is about defense. We use words not to connect, but to protect ourselves. We believe that if we just keep talking, if we lay out every logical reason, every scheduling conflict, every personal hardship, we become unassailable. We hide behind our explanations because standing quietly in our simple truth feels far too vulnerable. If we simply say no, we feel exposed to their judgment. But if we say no, because we feel we have built a fortress. Buddhism reminds us that much of our suffering comes from hiding from the present moment. The mind creates thickets of concepts, endless loops of justification, because sitting in the bare, unadorned reality of a moment is uncomfortable. This constant narration is a form of clinging. We cling to our logic, thinking it will save us from the raw vulnerability of simply being. We replace the simple truth with a noisy defense, forgetting that true strength is found in stillness, not in noise. Imagine a person walking into a quiet, open field, suddenly terrified of the wind. To protect themselves, they start gathering heavy stones, building a massive, towering wall around themselves. They stack stone after stone, exhausting their body, tearing their hands, working until they are completely drained. They are safe from the wind, yes, but they are trapped inside a dark, heavy wall of their own making, unable to see the sky, unable to rest, suffocating under the weight of their own protection. The words you use to over-explain your boundaries are these heavy stones. You see this in your daily life. You need to tell a friend that you cannot help them this weekend. Instead of a simple, honest decline, you begin to stack the stones. You mention how terribly tired you have been lately. You list the endless chores you have to finish. You talk about your physical aches. You build a heavy, exhausting wall of reasons, hoping it is thick enough that their disappointment cannot reach you. You forge an armor of excuses, but the armor only exhausts the person wearing it. You spend so much energy defending your boundary that you have no peace left to actually enjoy the space you fought so hard to protect. Think about your own life. When you pile words upon words, who are you truly trying to convince? Are you defending your peace, or are you burying it under the weight of your own anxiety? What would happen if you simply let your truth stand naked in the open air, without the armor of a long explanation? Pause. Breathe. The next time you set a limit, watch the frantic urge to build a wall of words. Let the urge rise, but do not pick up the stones. Speak your simple truth, and then let the silence be. Do not fill the space with a defense. Let the wind blow. Because peace is not found by building an impenetrable fortress of excuses. It is found by realizing you do not need armor when your boundary is honest. But dropping the armor of words requires us to step into the very space we have been running from. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. The power of the pause. There is a strange kind of terror in the silence that follows a simple no. Have you ever noticed what happens in your mind the moment after you set a boundary? You state your limit. The words leave your mouth, or you press send on the message, and then comes an empty space. In that brief window, a heavy panic sets in. The silence feels like a judgment. Your mind races. Did I say it right? Are they mad? Should I add something else to soften the blow? The urge to rush back in and fill the silence with more words is overwhelming. We treat the pause as an enemy because, in that quiet gap, we are forced to sit alone with our own discomfort. Buddhism reminds us that the pause is not an empty, dangerous space. It is a sacred space. It is the very heart of mindfulness. The teachings gently point out that we do not have to obey every anxious thought that arises. When the mind panics after setting a boundary, it is simply reacting to old fears of abandonment, not the present reality. The practice is not to stop the fear from arriving, but to pause and observe it without feeding it. The pause is where your freedom lives. It is the quiet gap between feeling an emotion and desperately reacting to it. Imagine a glass of water scooped from a muddy river. If you constantly stir the water with your hand, trying to force the dirt to disappear, the water will only remain cloudy and chaotic. The harder you stir, the less clearly you can see. The only way the water becomes clear is if you set the glass down. You must step back, let it be completely still, and allow the heavy dirt to settle to the bottom on its own. Your over-explaining is the stirring. You send a message setting a simple limit. I cannot make it tonight. I need to rest. Then you stare at the screen. The water gets murky. Panic rises. So you begin to stir. You quickly type another message. I am so sorry. I just had such a long week. Maybe we can do next Tuesday. I feel terrible about this. You are stirring the mud. You are refusing to let the moment settle. You are letting the temporary discomfort of guilt dictate your actions, erasing your own boundary before the other person has even responded. Think about your own life. How many times have you broken your own peace simply because you could not tolerate 10 seconds of silence? Ask yourself, what would happen if you let the uncomfortable silence exist? Are you truly in danger? Or is your mind just playing a familiar trick, convincing you that silence means you have done something wrong? Pause. Breathe. The next time you speak your truth, do nothing else. Put down the phone. Close your mouth. Let the feeling of guilt or anxiety rise up like mud in the water, but do not stir it. Observe the thought without following it, because peace is not found by constantly stirring the waters of conversation until you feel safe. It is found in the quiet discipline of letting things settle exactly as they are. But learning to tolerate the pause is only possible when you learn a new way to speak in the first place. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. Grounded, quiet honesty. What if you realize that true strength does not roar, but simply stands still? Most people do not realize that we often confuse over-explaining with genuine communication. We think that by giving every single detail, our exhaustion, our overwhelming schedule, our endless reasons, we are being authentic. But frantic honesty is not grounded. It is a plea for permission. When we nervously over-explain to a manager why we cannot take on another project, or tell a relative exactly why we are too drained to attend a gathering, we are vibrating with anxious energy. We are offering up our personal pain as a currency, hoping to buy the right to say no. We are essentially saying, "Please agree that my boundary is valid so I do not have to feel guilty." Buddhist wisdom teaches us that right speech is a profound practice. It is not merely about avoiding falsehoods. It is about speaking with deep clarity, intention, and peace. Words spoken from a place of fear or grasping lack a true foundation. Buddhism reminds us that the truth does not need to be heavily decorated or desperately defended. It simply is. When we strip away the anxious justifications, what remains is pure, unshakable reality. A gentle decline, spoken with a quiet heart, carries far more spiritual weight than 1,000 nervous apologies. Imagine an ancient tree standing quietly in a vast, open valley. When a fierce storm rolls in and the wind begins to howl, the tree does not bend over to explain to the wind why it cannot move. It does not apologize for taking up space in the earth. It does not rustle its branches frantically to justify the depth of its roots. It simply stands. It allows the wind to blow against its bark, resting completely in the quiet, silent strength of its own existence. This is what grounded honesty looks like in your life. You see it when you tell a demanding friend, "I do not have the capacity to help with this right now," without immediately launching into a detailed breakdown of your stressful week. You see it when you decline a social obligation with a warm but firm, "I will not be able to make it," without offering your exhaustion as a shield. You stop being a fragile leaf blowing frantically in the emotional wind of other people's expectations, and you finally become the tree. Think about your own life. How often do your words sound like a desperate plea for permission, rather than a simple statement of your reality? What are you so afraid of losing if you stop negotiating your limits? Ask yourself, what would it feel like to let your truth stand entirely on its own, without dressing it up in a dozen excuses? Pause. Breathe. The next time you must decline an invitation or set a limit, practice subtracting. Remove just one excuse from your sentence. Strip away the apology for having your own needs. Speak the core truth gently and let the simple words carry their own weight. Because peace is not found by perfectly arguing your case to the world until they finally agree with you. It is found by standing quietly in your own truth, knowing it is already enough. But what happens when the people around us do not like our quiet truth? What happens when our gentle boundary is met with real displeasure? And this is where the next truth begins. What if letting someone be disappointed in you is actually a profound act of respect? Here is the truth few people want to face. Most of us view another person's disappointment as an absolute crisis. The moment you state a gentle boundary and they pull away, sigh heavily, or offer a cold shoulder, every internal alarm bell rings. You feel an immediate, desperate urge to fix it, to apologize again, to offer a compromise, to sacrifice your own rest just to bring a warm smile back to their face. You treat their negative emotion as a problem you are obligated to solve. But trying to rescue people from their own feelings is an exhausting way to live. In Buddhist thought, true compassion is often deeply misunderstood. We mistake compassion for endless accommodation. We think being kind means never causing friction, but deep spiritual compassion involves non-attachment to outcomes. It means allowing people the dignity of their own emotional journey. When we frantically scramble to fix someone else's disappointment, we are not practicing compassion, we are practicing control. Buddhism reminds us that all emotions, joy, anger, sadness, and frustration rise and pass like clouds in the sky. Their disappointment is simply a passing cloud. You do not have to blow it away for them. Imagine a boat moving through rough, choppy water. If you are standing safely on the shore, watching a loved one's boat rocking in the waves of disappointment, your anxious instinct might be to jump into the freezing water. You want to try and hold their boat steady with your bare hands. You want to flatten the ocean for them, but you cannot control the sea. By trying to hold their boat, you only drown yourself, and they never learn how to navigate the waves on their own. Their disappointment is the ocean. It is their responsibility to sail it. You see this clearly in your own relationships. A family member gives you the silent treatment because you chose to spend a holiday quietly at home. A friend acts distant because you did not have the energy to carry their emotional burdens this week. Instead of letting them navigate their own frustration, you dive into the freezing water. You text them endlessly. You check in. You over-explain your exhaustion yet again. You desperately try to smooth out the ocean of their displeasure, terrified that if they stay mad, they will drift away forever. Think about your own life. What are you actually trying to save them from? Are you truly protecting them, or are you just trying to escape the heavy guilt of being the one who caused the waves? Ask yourself, what would happen if you simply trusted them enough to let them be unhappy with you for a little while? Pause. Breathe. The next time someone is displeased with your boundary, do not rush to rescue them from their own feelings. Let the feeling rise in the room without making it your identity. Stop trying to force the door open. Let them be disappointed. Let the storm pass without becoming the storm. Because peace is not found by making sure everyone always approves of your choices. It is found by trusting that the people in your life are strong enough to survive hearing the word no. And when you finally stop fighting the waves, you discover the profound stillness that has been waiting for you all along. And this is where the final truth begins. What if the freedom you have been desperately searching for has been waiting in the exact place you were afraid to look? At the beginning of our journey, we spoke of the deep exhaustion of the endless explanation. We talked about the heavy anxiety that rises in your chest when you simply need rest, and the frantic way you build walls of words to protect yourself from the disappointment of others. You spent so much of your life standing anxiously at the closed door, whispering apologies through the cracks, terrified of being misunderstood, terrified of losing love. But look at what you have discovered. You do not need to smooth out the ripples in the lake to prove you are a good person. You do not need to frantically catch the rain of someone else's disappointment. You do not need to build heavy, exhausting fortresses out of words just to justify your right to exist. And you certainly do not need to jump into the freezing ocean to steady a boat that does not belong to you. Buddhism reminds us that ultimate liberation is not found by perfectly arranging the outside world. It is found by releasing your grip. The hidden wound beneath all of your over-explaining was never really about the schedule, the task, or the favor. It was the quiet, aching belief that you had to earn your place in the lives of others by being endlessly accommodating. You believed that your boundaries made you a burden. But your limits are not a burden. They are the honest architecture of a human life. Imagine that tired traveler one last time. For so long, they stood at the threshold of the quiet room, begging the hallway for permission to close the door. But now, they slowly step back. They leave the door closed. They turn around, walk to the center of the space, and simply sit down. They hear footsteps in the hallway. They hear a heavy sigh of disappointment from the other side of the wood. But for the first time, they do not rush back to the keyhole to explain. They let the sound pass. They let the world outside continue spinning, and they finally, deeply, allow themselves to rest. This is the quiet peace of standing still. Think about your own life as you walk forward from this moment. You are going to face moments where you must say no. People will be disappointed. The urge to over-explain will rise again in your chest. But now you know the truth. You know that you can survive the silence. You know that letting go of control is the only way to hold on to yourself. Ask yourself, what would it feel like to wake up tomorrow and decide that your simple truth is finally enough? Pause. Breathe. Let that sink in. You are not responsible for carrying the emotional weight of the world. You are only responsible for walking your path with honesty, clarity, and a quiet heart. The next time you must draw a line, speak your truth, gently and firmly, and then do the bravest thing of all. Nothing. Just stand still. Let the reality of your boundary exist in the open air. Trust that the people who truly love you will respect the closed door, and trust that you are strong enough to let go of the need to control how they feel about it. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. You can let go now.